Welcome to the Buck Stops here, the official audio show of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, the owner, the operator, and I'm the guy whose opinion sometimes a lot of people don't agree with. That kind of includes my wife, actually. But it's Season 2, Episode 2 of the Buck Stops here, the official Hall of Fame program, where myself, the Buck, Evan Nolan will be here later, and all that stuff you hear in the background, not now, because I'm recording this earlier during the daytime, they're not crickets. It's not squeaks, it's not something powered by some 18th century locomotive. That's not how my internet works. Those are actually frogs. They're whistling frogs, the size of a Canadian loony. If you don't know what that is, look it up, and then you'll think, how the hell do they make so much noise? I don't know, it's the Caribbean. I asked the locals here, and they just say, it just does. So we'll have to run with that. So what do we got on topic for today? Philip Rivers is retired, and a lot of people think he might be a Hall of Famer. Evan and I, we agree, but I wouldn't plan that trip to Canton in 2026 if I was Mr. Rivers. I think it's going to be quite a while, and we'll explain why we think so. We also looked at a couple passings, and a few more from that, but the two big ones was Don Sutton, Hall of Fame pitcher, and Phil Spector, Hall of Famer in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and kind of all-around asshole. And is it not amazing how often those two things go together? Evan and I then predict who we think is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We've already done a great show on that where we inducted who we wanted, but who we want is not necessarily who we are going to predict. So without further ado, let's bring in Evan and a bunch of whistling frogs. Evan, I understand you've got a new president.
Yeah, I was wondering though, I was watching the inauguration, and they inaugurated Harris as vice president. And if they just, for that 5-minute period of time, did we have a Trump-Harris president, vice president thing going on?
Oh, interesting. I never even thought of that. I didn't watch it, actually.
Yeah, it was only for 5 minutes, but yeah.
Interesting. So then that can go back to the Electoral College. He might have had a shot at something. But, no.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with the Electoral College. I have a feeling with the way things are going, we're going to have a couple more states within a year. So.
You mean just sort of Colombia and Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think so. And then that will take care of some of the issues. They're like, here, it's almost going to be like, hey, we can either get rid of the Electoral College or put 2 states in. Which would you prefer? Because I think what's going to happen. So,
well, I mean, I'm not a huge Biden guy. I'm definitely not a Trump guy, but I certainly wish, and I think really every American and really every Canadian, even though I don't like Trudeau, I never want him to fail. And I think that sort of ends my little political thing. Although I do have a slight political rant, if you could indulge me, about something that just happened in Canada today.
Sure, go ahead. I don't care about Canadian politics. It's like politics that never existed. There's a invisible wall of trees.
Well, we
on that border.
No. We built that wall that you paid for.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you just it's too cold. Don't come here. We're like, okay, you're right. So continue.
Yeah, isn't it? I think that's Minnesota's state motto. But anyway, the Governor General resigned today. Now, I don't know
what that means.
Okay, all right. So then I wasn't sure if I had this conversation with you or with Vinny about Governor Generals. So the Governor General is the most worthless piece of shit in terms of a political position. It's basically...
Oh, no, you did tell me that.
I did? Okay. Yeah. So for those not aware, for the mostly American audience, the Governor General is the liaison to the United Kingdom, to the Queen, essentially. And technically, it actually is a higher position than the Prime Minister. Now, it never does anything, and the person who just resigned abruptly was because apparently she wasn't a very good person. Her name's Julie Payette, a former astronaut, and she just treated her staff like crap. To the point where the Prime Minister either said pretty much quit or resign. And it was I'm sure a lot more things are going to come out about the whole toxic thing. So this is just my plea to the nation of Canada. Do something that the nation of Barbados has done. Barbados is also a former British colony. This year eliminated the entire thing of the Governor General and any kind of direct crown allegiance to the UK. What, because they hate the UK? Not at all. This country loves Britain. It is responsible for 90% of their tourism. But it also creates a useless position that is a waste of money. I just want Canada to do the same thing. According to something I read in the Globe and Mail, a big paper in Toronto, we spend $32 million every year on everything pertaining to the Governor General. What does that do? What do they do? Right now, we have the pandemic. Nobody's visiting. Apparently, this Governor General we had was yelling at people because of work that they submitted, called them shit in front of other people. What work? What do you do? Nothing happens. I'm not anti-British. I'm anti-wasteful spending. Because as I've always said, I'm a disciple of logic. And logically, we can cut this tie without telling the UK to fuck off. Because, no, I don't think most Canadians think that. I don't know any that does. I mean, I'm sure there are a few. I just don't want to spend money on something that serves zero purpose. That's all. I just wanted to end my rant because this is fresh in my mind and nobody else is going to care. So I'll put a warning. Fast forward 5 minutes, so in case you don't want to hear my political shit. I know that you thought I was going to go on Sarah Fuller because you sent me that triggering message saying how she was going to be part of the inauguration. I'm not going to bite. Because no, woman, go get that money. Get that money.
Good for her, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, do I consider her a hero? No. If I had a daughter, would I want her to look up to her? No. Would I want her to be inspired by her? Not really, but take advantage of that and then do things right. There's a lot of girls playing in the Pop Warner leagues. I understand quite a lot. And at some point in time, there's going to be a kick-ass female kicker, maybe a kick-ass female football player. And maybe, just maybe, that person might have been inspired by something that sports media said incorrectly about Sarah Fuller. And if so, so be it. Now, Ms. Fuller, go get that money. Go do those TED Talks. Do it all. I don't have that. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. So, how do you feel about Philip Rivers retiring?
Philip Rivers retiring? Yeah. Wow. And I thought I was bad at segues.
I was just trying to change the topic.
Philip Rivers. Well, I've been thinking about this. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame tweeted something to him or about him, just saying eligible for 2026. And I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. I've never seen them do that before. I don't always pay attention to all of their tweets, mind you. But I thought about this. Is Philip Rivers a first ballot Hall of Famer? Statistically, you could argue that he is. There's only 4 quarterbacks with more passing yards, and every single one of them you're going to consider a Hall of Famer. Actually, one already is, and Brett Favre. One's about to be, in Peyton Manning. And there's 2 with Brady and Breeze.
Mm-hmm.
But, and he does have some of the accolades. 8-time Pro Bowler. So there have been 8 years that we could argue, or at least it was argued by the experts anyway, that he was a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league. And I'd agree with that. And when he wasn't, I'd still have him in the top 10. I do not see him getting in 2026. Especially for a few other things. Drew Brees might just retire. I think that's probably what's going to happen. So you have those 2 entering in the same ballot. And another guy who you and I both do not think is a Hall of Famer, but will be talked about endlessly, will be on his second year of eligibility, and that's Eli Manning.
Yeah, because I think he's getting in that first year. And it also depends on who else retires this season. I mean, if Larry Fitzgerald retires, he's clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's true, too.
Right? And that takes another spot. I think it all is going to depend. I think that Rivers gets in eventually. I just don't think he's going to be. I think he needs some people not to retire. If it's entirely possible Rob Gronkowski, who did not have a great year, goes back into retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's Fitzgerald, Gronkowski, and Breeze all at the same time. And I'm not even thinking that hard. I'm just doing this off the top of my head.
Right.
Like, it's going to make it very, very difficult. And then Frank Gore's there, too. Because who knows if Gore's playing again. And we already had our discussion. But Gore's third all-time in rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's ridiculously close to second, honestly. So, I mean...
That's three guys right there ahead of him on the pecking order. No, that's three guys you just mentioned. Breeze, potentially, and I think it's going to swing that way. Breeze, Gore, Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Breeze, Fitzgerald, and Gronkowski would all be ahead of him.
And Gore would, too.
Easily. And Gore probably would, too. Yeah. So there's four right there. So that I think it's going to be difficult for that first one. And this is just off the top of my head. And there could be a whole bunch of other people I'm just not thinking of.
Well, some could just retire abruptly, too, like Kuechly did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I do for the site is I'm ranking all the active players and where they stand. I haven't updated it by the end of the season because, well, the season's not technically over yet. But Rivers was only the number 7 quarterback who I have in terms of if everyone on this list retires now. So I have him behind Brady, obviously, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, who I have ahead of him, and Russell Wilson. Oh, and Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Matt Ryan has actually been the better quarterback overall if you want to just go by pure stats and even analytics. And he's got the MVP. So I don't see any of those other ones except for Breeze retiring. But let's say Tampa Bay shocks everything and wins the Super Bowl. Does Brady just say, you know what? It can't get any better than this?
No, because it's a point of pride for him that he's going to play until he's 45.
Okay.
Like, that's his whole thing. As part of his whole brand, that he's going to play at least one more season.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't think that's the case. But how about I just went to Yardbarker, and they had a list of people who might retire this year,
mm-hmm.
some of whom I don't think really matter that much. Like, I love you, Danny Amendola, but you're not getting the Hall of Fame. But, like, Malcolm Jenkins, Adrian Peterson.
Oh, yes, AB, yes.
Peterson's 35. Like, he had a good year this year, but he's still 35 years old.
Right.
Andrew Whitworth
mm-hmm.
is going to have a Hall of Fame consideration. Jason Witten was back in the league, remember?
That's true, too.
So Witten could retire. So they have 25 people here. I'm looking at it, like, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, the other ones, Olivier Vernon, Emmanuel Sanders, Jordan Reed, Jason Peters, Greg Olson, very good player, not going to make the Hall of Fame. Josh Norman, Gerald McCoy. Well, McCoy's pretty good. Sean Lee, Deshaun Jackson, Everson Griffin, Ted Ginn, Dustin Colquitt, Thomas Davis. What else I have here? And Amendola. So, yeah. So I honestly, I mean, if Peterson retired, let's just say Peterson, Gronkowski. Just think of that: Peterson, Gronkowski, Gore, Fitzgerald, Breeze are up there with Rivers. Like,
that's
Witten
disgusting.
Too. Like, there's just no chance.
No,
I think there are going to be too many. I think there are going to be too many good people retiring this year for him to get in first year. Now, it's going to be interesting. I sort of posed this. I don't know if it was. I think it was my buddies on my fantasy football thing more than on ours. But because let's just say that Rivers is retiring, and say Breeze retires this year. We both think Manning's still going to be on the ballot. It's very likely that next year is the end of Ben Roethlisberger as well. Roethlisberger wasn't doing that great this year. He has one more year in his contract, and I think he's going to play out the year, and that's probably going to be it for Roethlisberger. Then Brady, I mean, like I told you, I think I got one more season of Brady.
Mm-hmm.
We got him there. And then how many more years is Matt Ryan playing?
Not sure.
I mean, Ryan's going to be getting there. We have Aaron Rodgers looks great now, but if Aaron Rodgers wins another Super Bowl, Does he ride off into the sunset?
He could.
Because he waited too many years on the bench for him to really catch any of the top people in the league's numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He's really far. He's too far down to make it in the top 5, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
there's going to be so many quarterbacks on there all at once you're going to be comparing each other against.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy just looking at how all of this is going to go on.
And when Matt Stafford ends up with the Patriots this offseason and they win the Super Bowl next year. Matt Stafford to the Patriots, just by the way, is like the most fantasy football move that, or Madden move that any of the Patriots fans have been doing since we always put Corey Dillon on our team in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then he joined the team. We didn't know what to do. I kind of feel like the having him on our team the upcoming year just seems like something that's going to happen. So we'll see. Either him or Ryan Fitzpatrick. We should have Fitzpatrick and whoever we draft in the draft. Because what's wrong with having Ryan Fitzpatrick? He's played for every other team in the AFC East. Why not us?
At this point, why not? Ryan Fitzpatrick, though, for me, will always be the guy who his teammates dressed him up in like Conor McGregor that one time.
Conor McGregor was not dressing up like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, that's true too. Or they dressed him up. I guess he borrowed their clothes because there's no way he had it. And then it was like, holy shit, Conor McGregor just got 100 pounds heavier. It just blew my mind looking at that. But just such a likable guy, Fitzpatrick. I actually got to see him play twice live in Orchard Park, which seems like forever ago. So, okay, yeah, so Rivers, I think we're on the same page
2020 makes everything seem like forever ago, so sorry.
Oh, I got that right. So, yeah, I guess we got a couple passings that we should really talk about. Do you want to look at, we'll see with sports. Don Sutton.
Yeah. Do we have any baseball Hall of Famers left?
That are alive? Oh, Jesus. Pete
Rose. We've lost since May, we've lost 10.
That's why Pete Rose is still alive.
And Dick Allen. Well, Rose is living most sense, Spike. But and Dick Allen, who we both think would have been a Hall of Famer if, can I have a little rant?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Baseball Hall of Fame. Go fuck yourself. The Pro Football Hall of Fame met, and we're going to talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame met virtually for 8.5 hours via Zoom earlier this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Baseball Hall of Fame couldn't figure out how to get 15 people on a Zoom meeting to discuss players back in the fall. And the person they're most likely to induct, Dick Allen, has since died because they couldn't get together. So even if he would have passed away, he would have at least known he was going to the Hall of Fame before he passed. Now, he's likely to get in, people are going to say sarcastically, because he had passed away, which unfortunately happens a lot more at the Rock Hall than other halls. But they did this with Ron Santo. It happens time and time again with them. And they couldn't get it together because, as I said in our pod, or our thing that we did on Tuesday night, imagine how popular baseball would be if the people in charge actually liked the sport.
Exactly.
They do such a disservice themselves, continually shooting themselves in the foot. Rant over 1 second. Screw you, Baseball Hall of Fame. Continue.
So, Dick Sutton. Don Sutton. Why did I call him Dick Sutton?
Don Sutton.
Oh, Dick Allen. We were just talking about that.
Dick Allen we were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so here we have a guy, and I was when I was looking back through his career, and I remember, because I'm old enough to have watched him play in the tail end of his career when he was a veteran, and a lot of his work as a broadcaster. So I'm certainly very familiar with him. Actually, I had a neighbor who had a autographed picture of herself as a little kid with Don Sutton, back when he was a Dodger in the 70s, which I thought was pretty cool. But just to even show how hard it is to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame, here we have a guy who hit that magical 300 win number back when you could hit that number. And it took him 5 years to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he hit the 3,000 strikeout mark. And again, 5 years for them all to collectively say, oh, yeah, this guy belongs in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And yeah, I get it. Never a Cy Young Award winner. Never really that close to it, but he's not a poor man's Burt Blyleven. Like, who would you rather have, Sutton or Blyleven? I think it's pretty easy, right?
Not easy.
Yeah. The other thing I wasn't aware of is how he beat up Steve Garvey. I didn't know about that. Actually, I shouldn't say that he beat up Steve Garvey. I just read that they fought. I'm just assuming Sutton won.
Why do you assume he won?
He had the reach, and Steve Garvey, I don't know. He just Garvey was always the big talker. I don't know that he necessarily backed up a lot of stuff. And they fought, and maybe here's why I also want Sutton to have won that fight. They fought probably because Garvey got so pissed off because Sutton said that Garvey's not the best guy in the team, Reggie Smith is. So for him to go out and sort of say that to press clearly says that Garvey was just irritating the shit out of him and he was probably trying to pop his teammates. I could be wrong. Don't know. Don't have the Wayback Playback machine. Don't have the DeLorean. But, at this point, Sutton was a 12-year vet. He knew what he was doing when he made that statement. He knew exactly what he was doing. Because he wanted to get under Steve Garvey's craw and wanted to do that for, I think, his teammates. And how many people came out later and said Steve Garvey was a bit of a prick? And a fake.
Yeah.
So I guess that's also why. Also, how can you not love the guy who had that great head of curly hair?
Yeah, their head of curly hair is the first thing at Bob Sutton.
Yeah. I just... That's sort of I think why. I don't know who won that fight. I just read that they fought. I'm just assuming Sutton won that fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Any other thoughts on Sutton?
His numbers retired by the Dodgers, but he's also a member of the Braves Hall of Fame as a broadcaster. He was just a great pitcher for a very long period of time. Who really did. The other thing I remember about Sutton is at one point, Jim Palmer, after he got in the Hall of Fame, was attempting a comeback, and Sutton was furious about it.
Why?
I remember that at one point, just because he was already in the Hall of Fame. I just thought it was weird at the time that Palmer was thinking of coming back, and Sutton was furious. I remember sitting in my getting sunscreen in my parents' bathroom before going to summer camp. We always listened to the radio, and that was going on. And there was an interview with him about how mad he was that Palmer was attempting to come back because he was an old man. I don't remember very much more about it, and I don't think I've ever seen anything more about it. I just remember it at the time. So.
It's fascinating. Baseball's so weird like that, especially with these unspoken and ununderstood rules. I don't think that when Gordie Howe got into the Hockey Hall of Fame and then he came back, there was a bunch of other hockey players having a hissy fit.
Who's going to say anything to Gordie Howe?
That's true. That's also very true.
There's the Gordie Howe hat trick, a golden assist in a fight.
Okay. But two other players did it, and I don't think anyone said that's true. But Mario Lemieux did it. I don't think anyone said anything to him. Guy Lafleur did it.
Yeah. Mario Lemieux was sick, and then they changed the rules to get him in, and then he came back. I think that would be a little bit different. Mario's just in by acclamation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little bit different.
Well, Guy did. He was a first ballot inductee, but in hockey, it's 3 years. So then he came back for with the Rangers and the Nordiques. I forget which order. But I don't remember a whole lot of people, or at least players, saying "Oh, this is awful." I think people were worried that he might tarnish his legacy. I think that's what you're more worried about. But that's such a weird, petty thing to say.
Yeah.
Imagine if we put that with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Although maybe with some people they should be put to pasture.
Yeah. Yes, there are a few. So that's actually good. That's actually a good segue to someone for the rock and roll is put to pasture.
Yes, who I think we would cheer against in a fight, not because of his musical genius, but because he was an asshole. You can be both.
Mm-hmm.
Phil
and
Spector.
Oftentimes those two
that's true.
Parts of the Venn diagram will intersect.
Yeah.
So,
very good use of the Venn diagram.
Phil Spector.
Yeah.
Died at age 81. And someone put, as I saw on Twitter after he passed, he's really good at two things. Creating incredible soundscapes for rock and roll and killing people. He, of course, was responsible for the Wall of Sound and all the Beatles stuff. He also shot Lana Clarkson in his home and spent the last part of his life in jail with that. So
Sans wigs, which had to be the biggest worst thing of it all. I asked my dad about him. I always like bringing up my dad. He's. I wish my brother and I often talk. We said, like, why the hell didn't we come up with shit my dad says first? Because my dad's just perfect for that. Just ask his opinion on Phil Spector. He's not a music guy, but says, the first time I saw him, I thought, you know what? He looks like a little bitch. And that kind of sums up a lot. He was an awful person to Ronnie Spector. Just the stories that she has told, they're just awful. But I think because he wasn't much of a performer, it makes it so much easier to separate his body of work from the genius behind it. If that makes any more sense.
It does, yeah.
I didn't actually realize this. Do you know that Phil Spector actually performed on a #1 hit?
No, which one?
It was the Teddy Bears, To Know Him Is to Love Him.
Oh.
That was before his producing days.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's actually, I found this old YouTube clip of just sort of like him just playing, almost looking like Tiny Tim, and just going, dum, dum, to know him, and stuff like that. It wasn't particularly a captivating performance from him, but, I mean, there's few people who understood how to make a pop hit and what to do with it and how to make a sound more... I know this is two things that don't go together, but he made sound 3D.
He did.
And, I guess in a lot of ways, he's kind of like the Roman Polanski or the Woody Allen of music. A lot of people sort of...
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mean, because how many people sort of would still work with Polanski today? I don't know why anyone would, but they do. Maybe Woody Allen's not necessarily the best example. Because I have to say, like, when all that shit was going down with his daughter-in-law, if you would have told me 30 years later they're still together, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I don't know how we got to Woody Allen. And Woody Allen, a new untitled film from him is called...
I can tell you we got to Woody... I can tell you how we got to Woody Allen. We're talking about Phil Spector.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I don't know how we segue out of that. So into sort of like your usual death rattle or your death march.
Well, I will say Spector actually died of COVID in jail.
Oh, did he?
So, yeah, he did. So, but he was 81 years old. Another couple people that we should probably mention. I know he's not in any sort of Hall of Fame, but I do want to take a moment for Siegfried of Siegfried and Roy, passing away of pancreatic cancer at 81. Both of them are now gone within a year of each other. But probably, I mean, the biggest animal act anywhere in the world, got to be, right?
I would think so. Reminds me of a bit Chris Rock did about that, like when the tiger attacked. I don't remember which one it was.
You attacked Roy.
It was Roy, okay. And he was saying, like, and I'm not going to try to do a Chris Rock accent or impression, but he was saying, like, he was saying, like, I don't know why people are so surprised that the tiger sort of attacked the guy. It was the tiger just being tiger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what? It's lucky it didn't happen before, especially after I think all the people who watched Tiger King, like during the first batch of the COVID.
Talk about a guy who was disappointed this week. They had all. I mean, Lil Wayne got a pardon, and he had a stretch limo with somehow like a hillbilly back to it, like a pickup truck with, you know, the metal pipes going up on the sides, like that said "Thank you, Trump" outside the prison, waiting for him to be released after his pardon, and it never came.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is so awesome.
Yeah, it never ever came. So
I think we've come up with something that we can both agree Trump did the right thing.
Yeah, in that case, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff he did, but that not pardoning him was the right thing to do, and also kind of funny.
That makes it so much funnier.
Yeah. Also, a few other folks we should just get through. I did want to mention Siegfried. We had just passed away yesterday. Someone who's not in the Hall of Fame, but certainly deserves some consideration for his work. Ted Thompson passed away. The general manager of the
Packers,
of the Green Bay Packers. His first pick was drafting Aaron Rodgers, which seems like a pretty good pick in retrospect. He also was responsible for trading Brett Favre to the Jets. But he retired. He was kind of let go from the team in 2017, and he's relieved of his duties, which seems shocking at the time, but what we didn't realize was he had degenerative brain stuff going on, and passed away of it yesterday. I don't know. He seems like I know Ron Wolf, his predecessor, was elected to the Hall of Fame. It seems like Ted Thompson's probably a longer shot, but certainly one of the most respected general managers in football for many, many years. So he was only 68 when he passed.
When you look back, because that Rodgers thing is obviously a steal. I can't remember exactly where he was picked, but that was back when I think they only had invited 5 people to show up on draft day. And Rodgers was one of them, and he was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and just sort of fell to Green Bay as that heir apparent to Brett Favre, and they were right. They were 1,000% right in taking him. You know, when they did. I just realized
they were.
We could have the State Farm Bowl.
Oh yeah, of course we got the State Farm Bowl. We have the State Farm Bowl, or we can have Brady. I want Brady against the Bills. I think that'd be hilarious. So
that sounds like a bad Elton John song.
Brady and the Bills.
Levy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I mean, I was a Patriots fan. I am outright rooting. I don't really care who wins in the AFC. It'd be nice to see the Bills. I have nothing against the Chiefs, but they won last year, so it'd be nice to see the Bills make it, who never made it in a long time. But I'm outright rooting for Brady, at least against Rodgers, because just this whole narrative somehow that Rodgers is as good or better than Brady is insane. And this is probably the only time they're going to ever play in the playoffs, and I just want Brady to blow him out in Green Bay again and just put this whole thing to bed. So,
well, for me, my team is out, which is the Saints. When my team's out, I just go with what fan base needs it the most, and that's Buffalo.
Buffalo. Again, if the Bills win the Super Bowl, even as a Patriots fan, good on you. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The Bills. They can jump through every table they want. They can be like, yeah, we won. Great. That's right. The worst thing would be if they make it and then lose. That would be pretty freaking devastating. But
it'd be like if the Bills played the Vikings in a Super Bowl.
the loser leaves home bowl?
Something, or something like that. I mean, or the world implodes.
That was the real reason the Browns couldn't win last week. Because then we'd have a Browns-Bills AFC championship.
Oh.
There's no way the football gods were going to allow that to happen.
Well, you know, things change. I mean, like 20 years ago, I made the same joke about a Cubs-Red Sox World Series. Things change.
Well, hey, Sports Illustrated did in the 94 strike. They're like, well, we lost out on what was going to be the Cubs-Red Sox World Series. I thought we were going to get it in 2003. And then both teams lost in the championship series. The Red Sox with leaving Pedro in too long, and the Cubs by sending a man with with a very impressive set of headphones into hiding in Florida for several years. So, but anyway, just a couple more things people to get through. A couple people from the world of motor racing. Hubert Ariol died of COVID-19. He is the 3-time winner of the Dakar Rally. Okay. He was also only 68. He won most recently in 2004. So he passed away at 68. Also, Joël Robert passed away, who is a professional motocross racer from Belgium, who 6-time world champion, basically dominated motocross for most of the 1960s. He passed away at the age of 77 earlier this week. We lost somebody from the College Football Hall of Fame with John Arnett, who is a halfback at USC, also 5-time Pro Bowler with the Bears. 5-time Pro Bowler with the Rams, but he also played for the Bears. So Pro Bowler 57, 58, 59, 16, 61. He passed away at the age of 85. Never going to make the Hall of Fame. He only had 3,800 career rushing yards, but he had 2,290 career receiving yards, which is a lot for back then for a running back. So yeah, he passed away at the age of at the age of 85. We lost one of the greatest Canadian Olympic athletes of all time passed away this week as well. Kathleen Heddle. Do you know what sport Kathleen Heddle participated in?
No, I'm not even familiar with her.
She is a Canadian Olympic rower. Oh. She won gold medals, 3 gold medals, 2 in Barcelona and 1 in Atlanta. She also won a bronze in Atlanta. But she passed away at only the age of 55.
Oh, that's tragic.
From breast cancer.
Oh.
She's a member of the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame. She's awarded the Order of British Columbia, and she's inducted in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. So I know we make fun of the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, just because there are way too many people in it, in your opinion. Mm-hmm. But a 3-time gold medal Olympian is not one of those people.
She's not one of the people we'd cut.
Yeah,
not with that resume.
So, no, she unfortunately passed away, only 55, of breast cancer. And then we had a few people from the world of music, starting with Sylvain, the Egyptian-born vocalist for the New York Dolls.
Yes,
passed away.
Yes.
Guitarist mostly. He also sang, but mostly the guitarist for New York Dolls. He passed away at the age of 69 in Nashville. New York Dolls, of course, have been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame once, kind of surprisingly, and they've never been back. So it's entirely possible that he was could have been inducted to the Hall of Fame. He would certainly been the first Egyptian in the Hall of Fame, and probably only the second African. Is there any Africans other than Freddie Mercury I always forget that Freddie Mercury was born in Africa. Yeah, he's from the island of Zanzibar.
Love it. So when Sylvain died, so now that he's sort of like passing away, he's going to the afterlife. Do you think he'll walk there like an Egyptian? No? Okay.
Yeah, he's a New York doll, man. I don't think so.
You know, it took me years to realize that Buster Poindexter and David Johansen was the same guy.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. Didn't know that. Well, no, because I grew up like more in the 80s, and that's when he was that annoying band leader for Saturday Night Live. And he had that one hit,
Right.
hot, hot, hot. Then I'm learning more about the whole punk scene going backwards. Like, how the hell is this the same guy? Like, I want to hang out with David Johansen, but I want to beat the shit out of Buster Poindexter.
Right.
But anyway, I interrupted this segment.
That's a good range in your career. So anyway, he passed away. By the way, Sylvain was actually his first 10 middle name. So that was not just taking his name and doubling it. Zach, his first middle name. His last name is Mizrahi. But yeah, Sylvain Mizrahi passed away of cancer at the age of 69. We also lost Don Miller, one of the original singers of the Vogues. Passed away at the age of 80. I know the Vogues. Do the Vogues have one that hits on your number one hit count? I don't think they necessarily did, but they were. They were one of the early vocal groups from the early 50s into the 60s with all those, singing groups are coming on. Best known for You're the One, 5 O'Clock World, Turn Around, Look at Me, songs like that. So they were inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2001. Never really been under consideration for the Rock Hall as far as I know.
No. I'm sure.
We lost Ed Bruce, the country singer-songwriter, wrote most famously Mama, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. And he also co-starred with James Garner in the TV series Brett Maverick in the 81-82 season. He passed away at the age of 81. It said just of natural causes. I don't know what that is, but he did win the Arkansas Country Music Award for Lifetime Achievement. So there you go on Ed Bruce. And finally, Jimmy Rogers passed away. He did have a number one hit you'll probably have to do at some point. Honeycomb back in 1957. But he also did Kisses Sweeter Than Wine, Secretly, I'm Falling in Love Again, Make Me a Miracle, Are You Really Mine? Like one of those guys, the late 50s into the early 60s, kept going into the 70s, but it was, really gone for them. Although, did he do the Chipmunk song? Is that him too?
You mean the Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yeah.
No, that was a totally different guy.
Chipmunk song, Christmas Don't Be Late, 1965. It's Christmas with Jimmy Rogers. I don't know if that's the same one.
Can't be.
It was just another cover of it.
Yeah, because Andrew and I, we just did this song over Christmas. And that was 5 years earlier.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so it just must have been a redone of it. I just remember a version of it. So anyway, he passed away at the age of 87. And he had a whole bunch of issues against, he had some issues where he was claimed that he filed a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles claiming that he'd been beaten by 3 police officers. And they countersued him for $13 million in slander, and then everything was dropped, and he accepted a $200,000 settlement to let it go away. So, of course, one of the officers accused then later was arrested for assaulting his wife and threatening to kill her, so maybe there was something behind it. But
probably.
Yeah, so he passed away at the age of 87. And finally, yes, the beige mistress was added again.
Oh, no.
The mayor of Miskolc passed away this week of COVID, and also actor Josef Sass passed away. He's the director of the Microscope Theater, apparently a very well-known actor in Hungary. He passed away at the age of 82. So we had no athletes, though, from there. So,
yeah, so
that's everyone I got.
She's branching out.
Yeah, she is branching out. She was running out of athletes. She had to go somewhere else. By the way, I know we talked about with Tommy Lasorda passed away that last one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That Willie Mays was now the oldest living Hall of Famer for baseball. There are 73 Hall of Famers who are alive for baseball now, which is, again, down like 10 in the last few months. Who's the youngest baseball Hall of Famer? This is one I looked up.
Oh, you're quizzing me on this?
I'm quizzing you. Who do you think the youngest baseball Hall of Famer is?
Well, it would be someone who just got inducted recently. Rivera?
No, he's actually 7th.
Oh.
Youngest.
Okay, let's see. Wouldn't be a Rodriguez.
Ivan Rodriguez is 4th youngest.
Oh, okay.
There are 3 younger than him.
Wouldn't be Walker. He waited so long.
Now Walker is much further up.
Yeah. First ballot inductees recently. How about Pedro?
Pedro is 5th youngest, just slightly older than Ivan.
Vladdy? He retired early.
Vladdy Guerrero. There you go. There's the answer.
Okay.
Just interesting. And then is Vladdy Guerrero, Derek Jeter, Chipper Jones, Ivan Rodriguez, Pedro Martinez are the 5 youngest. So 5 oldest, just by the way, are Willie Mays, Whitey Herzog, Hank Aaron, Louis Aparicio, and everyone's favorite Hall of Famer, Bud Selig. So
think about that, though. Just the 5 names that you just mentioned, and whether it's oldest or youngest. And I'm going to include Selig in this shit. The top 5 names in baseball don't even approach that. Like you say, baseball hates itself.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason, or there's no logical reason that Mookie Betts should not be a complete household name right now, and he's not. Mike Trout. Well, Mike Trout doesn't seek attention. I don't think he tries.
Mookie Betts is the one. Because Mike Trout is, no offense to him, but he's just kind of boring.
I agree.
Mookie Betts is the exciting, like, happy, good player. Like,
his name's Mookie.
Sport athlete. He could be the best professional bowler probably out there if he wanted to be.
Like, Mookie Betts should be doing commercials with Spike Lee. Because Spike Lee's relevant again. He had a 15-year period of crap. But now, I mean, Mars Blackman should come back and do shit with Mookie Betts. And it will never happen.
Hell, football has their 16th best quarterback is doing all sorts of commercials in Baker Mayfield. And baseball can't get their best.
And they're actually good commercials. I do like those Baker Mayfield commercials.
I'm not saying they aren't. I'm just saying that's the difference between the sports.
It is, and it shouldn't be. But I guess sticking with Pro Football Hall of Fame, we've talked about this to death. So I think at this point, I'm just going to give you the 15 candidates, and all I want from you is to do something that you do when you do your annual list of the Rock candidates, and you give a percentage.
Yeah.
What is their percentage of getting inducted this year? Not in the future, just this year. And let's see how much we agree on. I think probably a lot.
All right. So let's take can we take the easy ones out first and then go through the ones that are a little bit more of a debate?
I was just going to do alphabetical, but I can do the easy ones first if you want.
Let's just get rid of the 2 easy ones first, and then we'll just get those out and we'll go from there.
So we both know who they are. That's Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson.
Peyton Manning's 100%. Charles Woodson is what my dad used to call the ivory soap percentage. Like, not quite 100%, but so close it doesn't matter. So I think Ivory Soap's commercial said it was 98.44% pure. So that's essentially where Charles Woodson is. Like, Manning's an automatic. Charles Woodson should be an automatic, but under a really strange set of circumstances, it's possible he waits a year, but he should. Mm-hmm. So those 2 are out of the way. So there are 2 of your spots left.
Okay.
All right. So who are we going to next?
Well, should I just go by the order I think you're going to descend it, or do I just go alphabetical from here?
You can do whichever one you prefer. At this point, once we got those 2 out of the way, I'm willing to do either way.
I'll just go alphabetical. Jared Allen, percentage chance this year.
I think that So you know my opinion on Jared Allen. I think that he is a fairly weak candidate on this list.
Right.
So Jared Allen is a first ballot. He's not an overwhelming first ballot. He's a very good player. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame eventually. Richard Seymour plays essentially the same position as a better player and has been waiting longer. So, well, I think it's possible Allen gets in. I think there are basically 4 spots locked and there's 1 spot open. I don't think it goes to Allen. I'm giving him I don't think, like, what's 1 out of 15 is what?
7 point something?
A 7.5% chance.
Okay.
So I'll give him slightly better. Yeah, I'll give him slightly better than that. I'll give him a 10% chance of getting it.
All right, I'm going to give what Dean Wormer said to Bluto. 0.0.
Hey, man, it wasn't over when the Nazis bombed Pearl Harbor.
Well, I said Germans, to be fair.
So, all right, what do you got?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna go across since you don't care how I do it. You mentioned Richard Seymour. You say he's got a better percentage. What is that percentage?
Okay, so as I said, I think and I don't feel like giving anything away with the rest of my percentages for saying this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have Manning and Woodson. We're gonna have one of the wide receivers at least, and we have at least one of the offensive line. So that leaves us with 1 spot left for the other 11 other 11 candidates. So you're comparing Allen and Seymour. It's clearly Seymour. Seymour apparently in the last couple of years has been one of the final 5 cuts. He's been very, very close. I think that Seymour is looking at this list, I think he is the 7th person on this ballot in terms of where his likelihood is of getting in, and that's just doing it quickly off my head. So I'm going to say he's probably he has to be less than 50%. So I'm going to say he's about a 40% chance of getting in.
Yeah, I'd go with that. So I'm going to give you 2 players at the same time. Rondé Barber, John Lynch.
Rondé's first time, long time. So Rondé Barber's going to be Hall of Famer. He deserves to be on this list. He's been waiting a while as a semifinalist, but there's no way he can get in before John Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
So I give Rondé actually the worst chance of anyone getting in this year. Mm-hmm. I think it's good that he's made this step, but I don't think he's going to step all the way over and into that spot because he's got plenty of time left. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put Rondé with less than 7.5. I'll give him about 5%. I don't think it's probably even less than that. Mm-hmm. I'll say 5 just because I don't think nobody has a 0% chance. So I'll say 5.
Well, that's disrespectful to my opinion, but that's okay. Because I'm also going to say Rondé is 0.0. And for the record, Rondé is the man I pitched when we had our mock committee meeting. Check it out if you haven't already. I think it was a lot of fun, and I stayed awake through that whole one. Now it's another little insight. Well, anyway.
I made that joke. I made that joke off air. I just want to point out you made it on air. So as long as you poke in front of yourself, it's okay.
I will gladly make fun of myself. When don't I? It's late. I'm the furthest east.
Yes. All right. So John Lynch, I believe, is 6 on this list.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm giving him a 50% chance. I think it's a toss-up with him and one other player for that last spot.
I think you're right.
Although Seymour could take it, and there's one other player who I think could take it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and yeah, I think there are only really 4 players who could take that. Well, I guess a 5th one who I don't think is a Hall of Famer has a shot at taking it. But I really think there are 4 serious contenders for that spot. Lynch is one of them. I'll give him a 50% shot. Okay.
Yeah, I'd sort of go with that. I'm, again, a little bit more, again, not, and I think we also have to be clear, this is not who you and I want to see in. This is what we're predicting based on what we have followed in the last, God knows how many years that you and I have been doing this collectively, a lot. So,
a lot.
Yeah,
I think I may have been in my 20s. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, nice. And that's just the start of the show.
I know.
So I
give him a 50% shot. So.
Okay. So I got I'll group these two guys together because I think I know where you're going to go with this. Tony Baselli and Alan Faneca.
So Faneca should have been in 3 years ago. And so Faneca has to get in. He is by far the best offensive lineman not in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So but it's entirely possible, again, since Baselli is also a worthy person. I have Baselli as my fifth person. I think Baselli is going to get that second spot, and I'm going to put two offensive linemen in.
Okay.
Yeah. So Baselli it's entirely possible. I didn't think that Faneca would be jumped last year by Hutchinson, but he was. I didn't think he'd be jumped by Mawai, but he was. So I'm giving him a 75% chance of getting in, just because it's possible I put Baselli in and go somewhere else. It should be higher than 75%, but it's not going to be just because Baselli exists on the ballot.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm with you with the 75, and the funny thing is, like, it's only lower based on what they've done. I would have had him as between like 80 and 90 any of the last 5 years.
As we've said many times in the show before, his spot last year got taken by Bill Cowher, which makes no sense other than the fact they had that 100th anniversary with 20 people in, and they weren't going to put – Polamalu was going to be in. They already had I think of who was the Donnie Shell got in, and then they weren't going to have a fourth Steeler. Like, Bill Cowher should not have been one of the two people who got in last year. I have less trouble with Jimmy Johnson getting in than I do with Bill Cowher.
Agreed.
Johnson was at least a finalist before, has been under discussion. I mean, I think he jumped the line too, but it's not as egregious as Cowher's jump. And once Cowher was a pick, then it just blew up any chance for Faneca, and they just went with Hutchinson, who played the exact same position with far fewer, well, not far fewer, but literally every honor you can have as an offensive lineman, Faneca has one more in every category than Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever it is, it's like, it's this many Pro Bowls, Hutchinson has one fewer than Faneca. This many All-Pros, Hutchinson has one fewer than Faneca. Like, all the way through. And yet, Hutchinson jumped in. And the only thing I can think of is they didn't want 4 Steelers out of 20.
I think you're right. I mean, I'm sure that they're worried about a perceived bias. I mean, you shouldn't, but it's easy for us to say. We're not the ones inundated on Twitter, and I don't know how sensitive they are to this stuff. Maybe a lot.
Right.
Some might not give a crap. Don't know.
I mean, Hutchinson was technically the only West Coast player out of that entire 20. And he's mostly thought of as a Viking, but he finished his career at the Seahawks. But he's legitimately the only one of those 20 people who played any significant time on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
There. And that who knows if that had something to do with it as well.
It very well could.
So,
percentage on Zach Thomas.
Oh, sorry, we didn't do Baselli, though.
Oh, no, sorry, you didn't give me a percentage on Baselli. Sorry. Go ahead.
So Baselli, I'm going with 55%, slightly more than Lynch. But it's not going to shock me. Going back to Lynch, this is his 9th time as a finalist. He's essentially entering Sheik territory. I'm sorry, 8th time as finalist. He's entering Sheik territory where they're just going to figure out a way to get Nile Rodgers in and have that count for John Lynch.
Man. We got to figure out what the sporting equivalent of that is, and I don't know what it would be in the Hall of Fame. But
I don't either, but but John Lynch has just been there so long. If they're just looking to get somebody who's been waiting a long time, Lynch is a candidate for that last spot. But I think that Baselli's a slightly better chance, just from what I've heard. All the people who seem to be under the Baselli bandwagon, who great player, incredible peak, short career. But it's entirely possible he gets in, so I'm giving him 55%.
You know, and those three Jaguars fans out there, they're really pushing that hard too.
Yeah, well, the Jaguars and Bengals deserve to have the same number of Hall of Famers.
So there you go. Zach Thomas.
Zach Thomas is my 8th person on this list. And spoiler alert for those of you who didn't listen to our thing, he was the 5th person we ended up putting in from our group. I think that he's probably close to Seymour in terms of chance of getting in. So I'll say about 40 for him as well.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the 3 wide receivers. Torrey Holt, Calvin Johnson.
What are you on Thomas?
On Thomas, I'm the same. I'm the same with you. I think he's going to get in the next 3 years, possibly this year. I could see him squeaking in as that number 5 spot, but I'm not sure. There's another person we'll get to that I think has a better shot than we're giving him credit for.
I don't want to even think about it.
Well, but it is that person.
Yeah. All right.
But we'll get there. So we got 3 wide receivers. Every one of them, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer. Not everyone would agree with that, as I sort of learned when we did our mock committee meeting. But Torrey Holt, Calvin Johnson, Reggie Wayne. Does Calvin squeak in? I don't say squeak in because that's not a fair word to say. But does he enter on his first year of eligibility making 3? And it could very well be possible. This is a special player.
Here's a question for you. If I answer this. Which of these 3 do you think has the worst chance of getting in?
Based on what they've done so far, Torrey Holt.
Agreed. I think Torrey Holt does have the worst chance of getting in. So I'm giving, and I said one of these wide receivers is getting in, maybe 2 of them. So I'm actually giving Torrey Holt about a 25% chance, which is ridiculous because he should be in already. But there are too many first ballots. I think, as we said, next year is DeMarcus Ware and 4 open spots. So don't despair for people who don't get in this year. Next year's class is going to be awesome. In my opinion, 13 of these guys are Hall of Famers. And if next year you have DeMarcus Ware, Zach Thomas, Torrey Holt, Richard Seymour, and Tony Baselli, that's still a ridiculous class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Holt 25% of getting in. So that leaves the other 2. So in terms of wow factor, there's no question that Calvin Johnson has it. Like there's only, as when they interviewed Charles Woodson on the announcement show for the finalists, they asked him who was the hardest illustrated guard, and he said they're all really good. There's the reason only one of them is called Megatron.
Absolutely.
He was ridiculous. He also was the one who sort of taught us what a catch isn't.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I think he is a slight favorite to get in. But one thing, surprising in my opinion, hurts his chances, and that's Peyton Manning being on the ballot. Because the idea of Manning and Wayne going in together may have more appeal than you think.
Or, just using what we just talked about with the Steelers, it might help him.
It could. We don't know how it cuts. So I'm going to say, even though one of these guys is getting in, I said 25% for one, I'm going 40 and 40 for those. I'm going to go, I'll change. I'll go 42-38. 42 for Johnson, 38 for Wayne. But understand, one of those 3 is getting in. I just don't know which one, and I can't put one significantly over the others, even though my personal pick is that Megatron gets in first. But I just don't know how they're going to vote. You don't know what it's going to look like.
I mean, it's also conceivable that all 3 of them don't. It's unlikely, but it's possible.
It's entirely possible. So, but I think one of them will.
I've got, I'm like you, I've got Calvin Johnson as a higher possibility than Reggie Wayne, not by much. Neither of them are 50% to me. I get Holt at a 10. But it's a little bit lower than what you had. But again, it's out of these 3 guys, and again, I discussed this, Holt would have been the one I would have wanted his career if I was a GM. But that's neither here nor there. We've got 3 guys left. One person who I think, and I've said this before, is doing a bit of campaigning, doing the things that he needs to do to get on people's mind, that's Leroy Butler. And I like him. I like him a lot. I just don't see it this year. Do you see it differently than me?
So anyone who listens to the podcast know that I voted against Leroy Butler at every chance I had to vote against Leroy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I still think he's a Hall of Famer. The way I was doing it was going by position. There's a certain pecking order within position, and I just thought Rondé Barber and Butler I voted against at the beginning because I thought they're behind Woodson and Lynch. And I still think they're behind Woodson and Lynch. So I don't think that Leroy Butler has a huge chance of getting in this year. Next year is entirely possible.
Yeah.
If Lynch and Woodson both get in this year, Leroy Butler's chances of getting in next year are super high. But with this ballot, I think it's a really, really tough ballot for him. Particularly since this is now his, second time on the ballot?
Second time as a finalist.
Second time as a finalist, I'm sorry. Yeah, second time as a finalist. He'll be back again next year. I give him... He's got to be down to with Rondé. I'll give him a 1 in 15 shot, so 7.5%. Okay. I don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, I think only because of, he's doing the things that they like to see. I'll give him a 10, but I think next he can go from 10 to 70 from this year to next.
Yeah, no, agreed. If Woodson's getting in, but if Lynch gets elected, his chances go way up.
Yeah,
so.
I think nobody can benefit more, depending on how this shakes out, than Butler.
I mean, I think Barber benefits a lot from Lynch going in as well. But, agreed. I mean, Butler, as long as Lynch is there, and I'm not even saying Lynch is a better player than Butler. I think they're fairly comparable. But Lynch is already, if he doesn't make it this year, he'll be on his 9th time next year.
Mm-hmm.
And Butler will only be on his 3rd. And they're just going to get Lynch out of the way before they get to Butler. That's just the way it's going to have to be.
Right. So then we got, the two people, and I think anyone sort of following along really knew where you were going with this when you said you see 13 Hall of Famers and 2 who don't belong. And that's Sam Mills and Clay Matthews Jr. I know, and these two are very similar in that they're both sentimental and emotional choices. Mills, because he passed away and he had that great story, as an inspirational player with the Carolina Panthers late in his career, although he was far more productive as a New Orleans Saint. Clay Matthews Jr., the online campaign led by his daughter is very strong. And she's done a very good professional job, I think, in trying to use statistical analysis where relevant, trying to sort of get as much quotes from peers and coaches and whatnot. But again, these are two guys, and I know that you feel the same way that I do, don't belong here. Saying that, does the momentum around Clay Matthews Jr., does it tell the great story? I've got him at 20%, man. He should be 0, but I have him at 20.
All right, so let me take care of the easier one first. Sam Mills is not getting in this year. So that one is also, I won't say impossible, I'm giving him 5%. That's my lowest of anyone getting in. There's just too many people, there are too many other stories, there are too many better players than Sam Mills. So I'm giving him a 5%. So we'll put him down there. Now, let's get to the 34th best outside linebacker in football history. How would I want to say about this? There's the Hall of Fame monitor has come up. They've come up with their own version of trying to figure out who's going to get the Hall of Fame, who's not going to get the Hall of Fame. If he gets into the Hall of Fame, there's only one worse player than him at that position in the Hall of Fame, and that's Dave Wilcox, who retired a long time ago. So a lot of people have had a bunch of time to pass him, right? Just some people who didn't get nominated for the Hall of Fame who are eligible this year, Pat Swilling, who I think both of us colors are, you as a Saints fan, and me as just a football fan, color our opinion of Sam Mills, because Ricky Jackson's already in, and Pat Swilling other than inspirationally, it's just a better player than Sam Mills was.
Absolutely.
And Pat Swilling isn't even sniffing semifinalist list. And I think that hurts Mills' chances very much.
Mm-hmm.
But Pat Swilling's better. Joey Porter is better. Cornelius Bennett is better. Lance Briggs is better. And all those guys were on the original list. Cornelius Bennett was a semifinalist. Like, all those guys are better players than Clay Matthews. As I always say, Clay Matthews is 34th on the list. 32nd on this list is Clay Matthews Jr. Like, he's behind his own son. It's just, he had 4 Pro Bowls and no All-Pros. And I understand All-Pros or no first-team All-Pros. I understand that they're not everything, but
for some, they're a big thing.
In his 16-year career? 0?
And also from a not a great team, but still a popular player nevertheless. Never hurt Joe Thomas getting a whole lot of Pro Bowls and first team All Pros, and he played on I think an even worse Browns team.
Yeah, I mean, he played in the worst Browns team there ever was.
But that's we're talking logic. Will they? Is there a strong? Am I off here thinking that it's not impossible based on sentiment that they just say, you know what, let's put him in?
So a few years ago, Everson Walls, on his last year of eligibility, got on the finalist list, and there was like, oh, it's nice, Everson Walls got a shot, but there's no way he's getting in. But Everson Walls wasn't running any sort of campaign like this because he was one and done, and he's gonna go. He's in the seniors pool, probably never to be heard from again because of the way they've set up the seniors pool. Where I want this to be for Matthews and what it's actually going to be are two very different things. You're saying 20%?
Mm-hmm. That's what I said.
I'm going to say 33.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know how much that campaign is going to help. He's going to get much more support. He's going to make the cut from the first 5. Whenever they cut from 15 to 10, he's going to make that cut. And if he's going to make that cut, then they have at least a 33% chance. Because I think that first cut is going to be Mills, Barber, Butler, one of the wide receivers, so I'm going to say Holt. And who am I missing? And Jared Allen. Mm-hmm. I think is the first cut. So then that leaves us with Baselli, Faneca, Johnson, Lynch, Manning, Matthews, Seymour, Thomas, and Wayne. And I don't think it's ridiculous he somehow gets out of that.
I do want to give some props to the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters at this point. Not necessarily for what they voted on, because we don't know. But we did our mock thing early in case there was going to be leaks, because they did theirs early. So, as of right now, there's been nothing leaked at all, unless you've seen something that perhaps I haven't seen, but one of us in our little Twitter groups would have put it.
There's only one person who can leak. Apparently the only person who knows is David Baker.
Oh, really? So they did it that way? Okay.
Well, they did with David Baker compiling the votes and then just keeping them to himself.
Okay, I didn't know that. So
he has them all. He has it compiled. He has them in whatever secret nuclear football suitcase he's supposed to have them in. So everything's in there, but he's the only one who knows the finalists right now.
David Baker.
If there's a leak, there's only one person it's coming from.
He could put it in his pocket. No one's coming near him. Actually, it's like that.
That's true.
I think was there a Simpsons episode where there was this one random character walking about and he had a giant hand. I'm really tired of all these things, comments about my giant hand. The first such incident came. I mean, that's David Baker in a way, sort of walking around. I mean,
sorry. Going back to the Simpsons just for a second. I thought it was hilarious, and they're like Kamala Harris is wearing the purple outfit that she was wearing because Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African American woman ever run for president or be on a presidential ballot in 1972, wore purple all the time.
Oh, okay.
What she really was doing, I don't know if she meant to. She was wearing Lisa Simpson's outfit from when Lisa became president after she took over for President Trump in The Simpsons. It's the exact same outfit. Go look at it. That episode, she goes, we inherited a bad economy for President Trump. Where are we, Secretary Milhouse? Like, she's wearing the exact same outfit that Lisa wore. The Simpsons know too much. I don't get it.
It's crazy. Well, them and Family Guy.
Oh my God! Like, just go back and just see that one clip. You're like, oh my God, it's the exact same outfit.
I have to, like I was saying before, I didn't really watch the inauguration. I was kind of just happy the season's over, if that makes any sense.
I understand. Yep.
Yeah, taking a political refresh from everything.
Yeah. And that's as far as the politics are going. We're talking sartorial. So what else did you have left?
That's all I got. I mean, we've got all those. I think we're pretty much in agreement. I'll just sort of state my predictions for the final five now, and I'll ask you to do the same. I will officially predict, obviously, Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson. I'm predicting Alan Faneca. And I hope I'm not letting my own personal judgment or my personal feelings cloud that, but I am going to predict Faneca. I also predict Calvin Johnson, and in the fifth spot, I am predicting John Lynch.
Okay, so just to be different, I have the same first four you do. I think that Lynch and Baselli are a toss-up. I'll just take Baselli in that spot. So, but if it's Lynch, I'm not going to be shocked either. If it's Seymour, I'm not going to be shocked. If it's Zach Thomas, I'm not going to be shocked. If it's Clay Matthews, I'm going to be disappointed, and slightly shocked. Mm-hmm. If it's anyone else, I will be pretty surprised. Although Torrey Holt is, I guess, the dark horse for the people I think are going to be cut, who somehow might have a shot of getting in. Maybe it would shock me if both Calvin Johnson and Torrey Holt got in. No. If it's Calvin Johnson and Reggie Wayne, no. Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt, maybe. That one might surprise me a little bit. But it's going to be one of the wide receivers, one of the offensive linemen, Woodson, Manning, and a wild card. So, and they're going to elect all of the others. By the way, they're going to elect Nunn. They're going to elect
Tom Flores.
Tom Flores. I mean, he's on the side of all the Coors Light bottles, and they're going to elect Drew Pearson. So all three of those guys are getting.
I think so. Yeah, that's all, I think why we didn't even bother discussing it. But I'm glad you brought it up because I wasn't actually planning to. I just thought it was almost an automatic. That's how I feel about it.
If they don't elect Drew Pearson, then the whole process needs to be scrapped because they're only putting one senior candidate up. If they don't put that person in, then they're completely destroying the whole system. So,
well, I hope Drew Pearson doesn't film his reaction this time.
Mm-hmm. Does David Baker fly from house to house and just show up?
No, he went. He did that on the NFL Honor Show.
No, I remember. I'm just saying, does David Baker though this time just fly from house to house and show up everywhere?
I would imagine. Oh God, I'm sure it's going to be something really cheesy where he's just going to do a video with that interesting smile he has. I'm just going to use that as the word interesting, and then just I can just sort of see it, and then just going like that. I don't know. Yeah. But I did read this interview that he did not that long ago, where he's trying to be all sheepish, like, I can't even go to Burger King without someone knocking. It's kind of you fucking love it.
Of course he does.
That's why you made it your own shtick. Please.
Of course he does. And then NFL films did a whole thing on how the knock is so exciting. So it is. I'm not lying about that, but it's still, Yeah. Anyway, all right, before we go off anymore, I think that we should probably call it. This is a rational place for us to stop, which is highly unusual for us.
It's almost unheard of.
I know. We must be getting better in season 2?
I would think so. And I think we're actually it might even be better yet, because I think we're going to start filming these pretty soon. I think I figured out how to do it. And, stay tuned, because, these are two sexy beasts right here.
Are you holding two things up in your hand and I just can't see them?
Okay, so we're not gonna win Q rating points this way, but there's people worse off than us.
Hey, we found someone to marry us, both of us, so we can't be that bad.
Yes, we did, and we didn't have to drug them. We didn't have to make them say, look, sign something that said, look, if you haven't found somebody by 30, none of those things took place. I actually got the girl I described when I was a teenager.
Wow.
So
I went completely against type. So, anyway.
That's a conversation for a different time.
I'll talk to you later, man. Now we're getting in trouble. I'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Stay safe. Thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe, everyone. There's going to be a lot more content from us regularly here at NotInHallOfFame.com. Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care.